The strong public education system that we've had in this country was the foundation of the American dream. The choice that Americans faced was whether there would be a middle class. And the great impulse behind public education was civic. There were many children on the street, no education, no future. And people who were leaders of the city said, you know, it's our responsibility to make sure that everyone has an education because that'll be good for our democracy. For many young people, it's their first introduction to learning what democracy is about, learning how to debate others, learning to listen to others, learning that kind of you're encouraged to think for yourself and encouraged to collaborate with others. These are all behaviors you need in a democratic society.
I was always a public school parent, active at my children's schools. I was a volunteer. I put energy into their schools and became aware of the educational reform movement. My interest evolved into researching education policy and then these issues about charter schools. And I started to blog about them, getting word out about some of these problems with educational reform. I'm a founding member of Parents Across America. It's a national group that was created to educate other parents about the issues going on with the education reform movement. You just start calling these schools failures, and then you start to move in to replace them with something else. Charter schools aren't public schools. They're privately managed schools that are funded with taxpayer dollars. You have short-term teachers, privately managed schools, no local control. It's a perfect storm that's destroying American public education. Some of the worst offenses taking place in public education today are in Texas.
You can feel the movement growing. How many know Diane Ravitch? Raise your hand, okay. If you don't, you will.
There are quite a number of experts who are critical of the charter school movement. One of the main voices these days is Diane Ravitch. She's a former Assistant U.S. Secretary of Education. She had been for a long time a proponent of corporate education, but it occurred to her that this was going in the wrong direction.
There are now 6,000 charters, and on average, the charters do not get higher scores than the public schools.
I remember when charter schools started, and it was back in the late 1980s. And Albert Shanker had the idea of charter schools. And I remember one day sitting with him, and he sketched out on a piece of paper the logic of charter schools. And to him, the reason for charter schools was that there were many kids who were not doing well in school. He said you could go into almost any school and you'd see kids with their head on the desk. You'd know that a lot of kids were dropping out. He said the charter school would be an opportunity for a group of teachers to get together and say, why don't the 8 of us create a small school, try different things, and then bring whatever we've learned back to the public school so that they can incorporate it and help to educate all children. That was his concept. In 1993, he repudiated his own idea and said, charters are now being used by for-profit companies, and I don't want to see privatization. I don't want to see for-profit companies operating schools.
They have low test scores, low graduation rates, high teacher turnover, but they're very profitable for those who own them. Don't let them privatize your public schools. The privatization movement is a mighty hoax to grab what belongs to all of us.
You have Senator Dan Patrick advocating for vouchers. That would be very destructive to public education because every dollar that goes to a voucher comes right out of the public school system.
Dan Patrick is a Texas state senator. He chairs the Senate Education Committee, and he is extremely aggressive in terms of introducing legislation for charter school expansion.
I love education, first of all. Let's break away from this model that is not only not working in many areas, but isn't even relevant for where we are today. I'm always interested in what is most relevant, and what is most relevant is education. I've been very interested in that topic and very concerned. The fact that we have 500 failing schools, and you as a parent are told, this is where your child must go, because this is the zip code you live in. You have to send your child to a failing school. That's outrageous.
And Tracy, is she good?
She is.
A charter school is a public school, tuition-free. 90% of their operating funds come from the state of Texas. The other 10% primarily from the federal government. Charter schools boards are not subject to local elections. There is some state law, state regulation that don't apply to charters. If a charter school figures out on Friday that their 6th grade math program isn't meeting the needs of kids, they'll frequently work over the weekends, and on Monday, they'll have a revised math program to hopefully better meet the needs of those kids. In traditional school districts, on the other hand, you have to appoint community committees, faculty committees, parent committees, got to go through several hearings, goes through to the elected school board. And so it may take a year or more to be responsive, to meet the changing needs of the students. We can be much more adaptive and change much more rapidly than in traditional school districts.
Even as they head into the holiday break, some Austin parents and teachers are promising a fight after the district voted to allow an in-district charter program to operate out of 2 East Austin schools, Allen Elementary and the East Side Memorial High.
This is where the takeover happened, where IDEA did whatever it takes to take over Allen Elementary. The AISD, Austin Independent School District Board, voted to hand over an academically acceptable school that was academically acceptable for over a decade to a charter school organization from South Texas. On the flyer, it said, just come to this community meeting and learn about proposals that affect your community schools. And so it said, 4 proposals. IDEA is going to be at Allen this way, IDEA is going to be at Allen that way, or IDEA is going to be at Allen another way, or the community can come up with a different proposal, and if it's better, we'll just go with that. Well, the community did. We worked in 2 weeks with everybody in all these different schools, community members, even just people across the city who just wanted to help. Now that you receive our engagement, will you respect it? Vote no to IDEA and put your paws up for the Eastside Memorial High School vertical team community. Thank you. All of that grunt work, all of that organizing work, and we didn't get our proposal. There's so many problems with IDEA. Who doesn't teach art, who doesn't teach music, who doesn't have counselors. When they came in, they said, we don't want the library books. Currently, IDEA only operates 1 school in East Austin. It's IDEA Allen. It's supposed to start making its way into Eastside Memorial High School next year, but there's a vote that can happen to null the contract before then. So that's how important it is to vote for school board candidates in this upcoming election.
Beginning in February, community leaders asked me to consider the possibility of running against our opponent, the incumbent, who seemed bent on privatizing the public schools of District 2.
I'm a certified teacher and an experienced school administrator, but I never in my life dreamed of running for the school board. My roles is as a pastor, but in my mind, those roles are clearly separated. I am acting as a member of the community who's passionate about education and making sure that we are doing the best that we can to give a hand up to the students of our community. One of the challenges that we have with IDEA Public Schools is their Board of Trustees is not here in Austin, it's in South Texas. It doesn't make sense.
We have 4 openings on the school board that seats 9 people. It's the future of our kids and keeping public education in AISD public. Part of the side is officially endorsed at this point Gina Hinojosa. She's running against a pro-charter opponent who has a lot of funds coming from pro-charter, pro-voucher people. Ann Tai is running against the incumbent who also voted for IDEA. Reverend Dr. Jamie Mathias, he's running against the incumbent Sam Guzman. Sam Guzman was the leader of pushing IDEA at Allen.
I'm Sam Guzman. I've served on the school district for 6 years. I want to close the achievement gap, continue to decrease the dropout rate, and to make sure that we have a voice.
Dr. Mathias.
How interesting that our opponent in his opening remarks talked about us having a voice. We had a voice, and the board was not listening. I pledge that as a member of the Austin Independent School District Board of Trustees, I will listen to you, to all of us as a community, and to do what it is that we believe is best for the future of our children, and IDEA Charter School was not that.
That school has dropout, 0% dropout. It has 100% graduation. Now, if anybody in here has a problem with that, then raise your hand and let me know, because I need to know that.
Your numbers are false.
Chairman, strict enforcement of the rules.
There's been an unprecedented amount of money poured into local school board races for pro-reformy candidates. They're undermining local control by picking candidates who will implement the agenda that they prefer.
Vince, you represent a real grassroots movement. It's the community taking on this established political system, and that's what is so fascinating about this race.
I don't think people are aware about education in Austin, let alone IDEA. So we're doing our best to educate people about education in Austin. Everybody in the city can vote for Gina, everybody. She's trying to keep public schools public.
We're block walking in Hyde Park. It's a high voter turnout area, and it's got some neighborhood schools. So I think my message of preserving neighborhood schools would resonate with voters here. There's a school on the east side that was given over to a charter school against community will. And so I'm running to essentially preserve our public schools.
Okay. Vote for Jamie and Gina. Next. I love this part of campaigning. Ooh, love the exercise. I'm getting out and seeing all parts of the district that I'll be representing, and also having a chance to meet such a variety of people. My name is Jamie. I'm running for school board to better represent our students and their families. Running for school board to better represent our students and their families. I'm running for school board to better represent our students and their families. After this great weekend of being out and engaging in voter contact, we're feeling very good.
We're having a conversation with Diane Ravitch, one of the leaders in keeping public schools public in the country.
If you look at the federal test scores, Austin has one of the most successful school districts in America. Is Austin perfect? No. Is any school system in the country perfect? No. We're not going to see any big improvement in American education by opening more and more charters. We're just going to destroy public education.
How many charter schools are there in Texas now?
We have over 500 campuses. We have 215 charters. So if you have a charter and you're successful, you can replicate. Like KIPP, and that's the one that many people refer to, they can expand.
There's a lot of perception that KIPP is the largest charter school operator in the United States. And
it's not. You know, most Americans are not aware that the largest charter chain in America is run by a group of Turkish men associated with an imam who lives in seclusion in Pennsylvania. It's called the Gulen charter chain, and he's Fethullah Gulen. He happens to be very politically powerful in Turkey, where he is a very important political movement. Why are there way more than 100 charter schools run by a Turkish imam in the United States?
That is the King Estates Middle School campus. It was closed a number of years ago and is now occupied by Bay Area Technology School. That's the Gulen Charter School in Oakland. It's also known as Bay Tech. I had discovered a newspaper article about a charter school in Salt Lake City that parents thought was associated with a Turkish religious group called the Gulen movement. At that point, recalled looking at the board member listing for this school and then was able to identify them as all Turkish names. So that's when my wheels started spinning and I started doing more research and figuring out that this was not random. Fethullah Gulen left Turkey in the late 1990s. He came to the United States and leads a movement that is active around the world.
I met Gulen when he was a preacher in a mosque. It was not that popular at outside, so he opened up schools. After the collapse of Soviet Union, Gulen established more than 150 schools. Today, all those students are high position. They become more powerful, and that's why Gulen's called them golden generation. The more they get in power, then the more they abuse others. And the military actually tried him to court. And so Gulen actually gave a reason, like health reason, and came to United States.
Sizden ayrılmak bana çok giran gelir.
After he fled Turkey to come to the United States, there was a quote of a video that was leaked of him saying, advising his followers to travel in the arteries until you reach all the power centers.
Böyle bir yerlerde birer tane ev açıp orada tıpkı bir örümcek sabrıyla ağımızı kurup o ağın içine düşecek insanları bekleme.
Turkish people know about the Gulen movement, but in the United States, it's been an underreported story.
Who is Fethullah Gulen?
I have not done a deep study of him, but I only know what I read about his movement.
What is the largest operator of charter schools in Texas?
I'd have to go back and check that. I'd have to go back and check. It's probably either KIPP or Harmony potentially.
Mm-hmm. I think it's Harmony from what my research is.
Right.
Currently, the largest is the Harmony system of math science academies. They operate over 35 campuses around the state. They've got a campus in Beaumont, they've got a campus in El Paso, they've got a campus in the Panhandle, in the Rio Grande Valley. They're literally all over the state.
My name is Amy Warren. I teach at Harmony School of Excellence, a charter school in Austin, Texas. It obviously doesn't look like a regular school. It looks like an office building. It's in the middle of an industrial park. Everything around here is businesses. It's not very kid-friendly. There's a lot of traffic, a lot of noise, and it's just an odd place to have a school. I was hired as a teacher's aide, but my first year there, about 2 days before school started, I was told that I would be teaching health for 4th through 8th grade. Even though I have no prior experience teaching health and it's not what my certification is in, I expressed my concern that I was not qualified to teach these classes, and I was told by our principal at the time that I could just take the kids to recess each week in my class. It's very unorganized, dysfunctional. It's really hard for us to do our job when our principal doesn't even know what we're supposed to be doing. I would say about 300 kids are supposed to use this playground. Obviously, it's not big enough for that many children, so there's a lot of injuries and fights that happen. The Turkish administrators do most of the planning of what is going to be implemented into our schools.
I was a teacher at the Harmony School in Lubbock, Texas. It was my first year teaching, so I kept a journal to record my experiences. In August 12th, 2010, today was my first day of in-service at Harmony. It went really well. November 6, 2010 is how we've recently lost a teacher. She was offered a job at Lubbock ISD, and we hired another who had taught for 13 years. She was gone after 4 days because she didn't want to put up with the administration. I think at this point we have more uncertified teachers than certified. We have more first-year teachers than seems legal. Most of the Turkish teachers' English is so bad that I can't understand them, and they clearly can't understand me. January 22nd, 2011. The administration here is completely underqualified to hold administrative and management positions. They're more concerned with sharing, even forcefully, the awesomeness of Turkey with staff, faculty, and students than with providing a good educational and work environment.
I worked at the Harmony School of Innovation, which is in Southwest Houston. When I first began looking for a job, I thought that Harmony was perfect. You look at the numbers and you look at everything, and nothing but good reviews comes up. They're putting out all of this good PR about this school, and I just want to get the truth out there. This is shot with the covert camera that I used. Throughout this video, I think that what's particularly disturbing is the special education student left outside of the classroom in almost every class. Here's the special ed student again, outside of a different classroom. We're about to see the special ed student for the third time. And knowing him personally, he's a very smart kid. He stopped by the library all the time to read, and it's a shame that he doesn't get the education that he deserves. And coming up right here, this is another special education student who is outside of a different classroom where the teacher is just collecting his work from him. Every time that I attempted to talk to our principal, he would ignore me, or he would just say, okay. At a public school, a teacher would be in a lot of trouble if they were to do that. This is just a median for a parking lot, and it's used as a playground for the kids. There would be up to 60 kids at a time. Here they are playing in a parking lot. There is no one watching them, and it is right next to a very busy freeway.
I was employed as an English teacher at the Horizon Science Academy in Cleveland, Ohio. I have a BA in English, I have a graduate teaching credential in education, and I have an MBA. Horizon is a charter school. It's managed by Concept Schools. There's approximately 30 schools in the Midwest. The teachers were predominantly Turkish, and all of the top-level administrators are Turkish males. The majority of the Turkish teachers had nothing more than a substitute license. Not only were they not as qualified as the American counterparts, they were being paid more.
One of the Turkish male teachers who had worked there for only 2 years in the same pay grade as I was, he had left his paycheck on the copier machine, and it said that he had brought home that month $4,300. Meanwhile, I'm making about $1,000 a paycheck. He was under the section that said you would be paid that much if you had been working there for 22 years. I did everything that they asked me to do, yet I was still being paid $20,000 a year to work 40 plus hours a week, while my male Turkish counterpart was making more than double what I was making.
It's well documented that in this country, there is a shortage of qualified teachers to teach math and science. Let's not forget, Harmony Academy is a math science academy.
These are teachers that are not certified. You can see that there's children playing with a box, and he's just sitting there watching it happen. And I looked it up on the schedule, and these children are supposed to be in science class.
They have become known, according to parents, to do a significant job of improving students' math and science scores.
I honestly believe that the test scores are manipulated because this does not equal to high scores.
Our principal has told us that if a student is failing, you're just going to help them out.
In your opinion, what do you think he meant by helping them out?
In my opinion, by saying you're going to help them out, I think he meant to change their grades.
The bottom line is that look at the results. Virtually every one of them are exemplary, the highest academic rating the state provides, or at least recognize the second highest rating.
It's so strange to look through these videos and see that there are Turkish men who are doing absolutely nothing almost all day. When they would come in August, they would tell me that they had only been in America for 2 months. I had many students tell me that their teachers would use Google in order to translate things. It just seems very shady to me as to why these people are in an education system in the first place.
About a year into my employment with the school, I learned through one of my Turkish colleagues that all of the Turkish teachers at the school and the administrators were part of the Fethullah Gulen movement.
We were called into this meeting room and we had to watch this video about this man named Gulen. The video was basically about who he is, what he stands for, his education philosophy. And then after the video was over, our principal was like, okay, this is this great guy, I see what he stands for, but we're not affiliated with him at all.
A lot of the leadership of Harmony or Cosmos are Turks. There is no formal connection in any way with Fethullah Gulen and the Gulen movement.
I do not think that it's true when they say that they have no connection to Fethullah Gulen. A lot of their dinners, a lot of their team building activities take place in the Turquoise Center, and there are signs there that say things about supporting Fethullah Gulen.
Gulen charter school operators will claim that their schools are unrelated. They'll also will claim no connection to the Gulen charter schools that are abroad. There is always a way to find out that these schools indeed are connected. They often use the same text in their welcome letters. These are welcome letters that are maybe posted at the beginning of a student handbook for the year. So you have here the Bay Area Technology School in Oakland, and the second paragraph says, Baytech is a reflection of all of us. All of our policies are intended to provide a safe and orderly environment that will be conducive to learning. But then you have this school in Pennsylvania, YSCP is a reflection of us all. Our policies are intended to provide a safe and orderly environment that will be conducive to learning. Oklahoma, Discovery School of Tulsa is a reflection of us all. All of our policies are intended to provide a safe and orderly environment that will be conducive to learning. Tajikistan, Dushanbe International School is a reflection of all of us. All of our policies are intended to provide a safe and orderly environment that will be conducive to learning. Ethiopia, Najashi Ethio-Turkish International School is a reflection of all of us. Hong Kong, the Rosebud Primary School, a reflection of all of us. The school in Korea, a reflection of all of us. Massachusetts, Hampton Charter School of Science is a reflection of all of us. Magnolia School, same sentence. These are all schools that will deny a connection with one another. Here's a school in Austin.
Many of my colleagues have tried calling the central office in Houston. You know, they might have questions about curriculum, something's going on in the school, they want to relay it to someone higher up, and no one ever answers the phone.
Right next to the school is a nice new building that is the headquarters for the Harmony schools and also the Cosmos Foundation. I'm not sure what goes on in there. I know that it's where Soner Taram, where his office is. Soner Taram is our superintendent, but I have never met him. I have never seen him. I do not know of anyone who has seen him.
I'd like to see Dr. Soner Taram.
He's not in the office today, sir.
You know when he'll be back?
I do not.
Is there anyone else we can speak to?
You know what? Let me inquire. Would you mind to have
All
a
right,
seat for me?
sure.
Thank you.
We've been trying to sit down and talk to Dr. Taram directly. These are all the correspondence that we've had. We've sent certified letters.
Okay.
And all I get are non-responses essentially from his PR firm.
Sure.
And since you guys operate the largest charter school network here in Texas,
Sure.
we really feel that we need to speak with him directly.
Okay.
So I've tried to call, he is not in the office right now. I tried to call him and I texted him and asked him to call me right away, which
Will
is
he be
why I
back
have his phone.
today?
I'm not sure. I don't know if he's
Nobody
here.
knows what his calendar is?
I don't have his calendar for today. I mean, I usually have a general idea. Will you give me copies of the documents that you have, just so that, because I would like, and I can ask Ms. Matthews to make copies for us. Just
Absolutely.
So that way I'll have an
copies of
idea,
that, go
because
right
I would
ahead.
love to, whenever I finally get a chance to connect with him, more information I can have,
Sure.
and the clearer I can be on things, then I can
That's
do a better
pretty much
job
all
of
the
connecting.
correspondence that we've had over the past year with you guys.
Okay, great. Let me have
So
Ms.
make a
Matthews
copy of it, yeah.
Okay, great. There you go. So
All right.
I hope to contact you sometime today. Are you going to be in town?
Yeah, we'll be here for a few hours. We've got some other interviews to shoot,
Okay,
so we'll be around. And,
Okay.
You know, if it's not today, if he's available some other time.
Okay.
I mean, I think we really need to hear from him about, you know, the success of these schools, how it's grown, what he sees is important.
Okay, great. So I'll look forward to hopefully, I will call you today in any case.
All
And
right.
again, you have my contact information,
Absolutely.
so we'll be in touch.
Very good.
Thank you. Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Let's not lose sight of the fact that what this whole process needs to be about is the student and driving greater achievement, academic outcomes for the students. Harmony excels in those areas.
It's Harmony Science Academy in Beaumont, where I've been going to school the last 3 years. Came home, I checked the mail, and I saw the brochure for Harmony. And I was like, oh, this looks pretty cool. So I went through it. I'm like, oh my God, it's heaven, because in the brochure it said a zero tolerance policy for bullying. So I'm like, you know what? Yes, we're gonna sign up for this. I'll start high school somewhere where I won't get bullied. And I was so excited. And I finally get there, and I was bullied by the teachers. Most of the teachers that teach there come straight from Turkey to teach. Until you go there, you don't really know how they act. You can't really explain it to the full extent because of just all the crazy stuff that goes on at Harmony.
It's just a very complex story, and it started the minute Tatiana walked in the door and the first time she opened her mouth. If she would have just sat there and been quiet, she would have been fine.
I had just started going there as a 9th grade in world geography class, and some of the students there were making fun of the Holocaust and you know, the way that the Jewish people looked and how they died. And the teacher overheard the conversation, and she happened to be, you know, Turkish and a Muslim, and she overhears the conversation, and she joins in making fun of the Holocaust. I told my teacher, I was like, you know, I find this very offensive. Well, why do you take it offensively? I'm Jewish. And she just stopped dead in her tracks. Like, you're Jewish? And I was like, yes, I'm Jewish. I got in trouble for it, you know, hollering at a teacher, but they never made fun of Jewish people again. So, and to this day, they still think I'm Jewish, and I don't mind. It was the right thing to do. I'm positive they're trying to make me leave. You know, you don't belong here anymore. You need to go somewhere else. My best friend, I met her at Harmony, and that's the only reason I'm dealing with the bullying from the teachers and, you know, all the things that they throw towards me, and I'm not gonna bow down to them.
She wants to prove to them that she can do it.
I can do it, and I'm going to do it. I'm gonna walk across that stage and get my diploma, and I'm gonna leave.
Three teachers told a court they were wrongfully terminated from Kenilworth Charter School. They say they were discriminated against and they were harassed until they were fired. This month, a mother filed a lawsuit detailing what she calls neglect and mistreatment of her Kenilworth student. In both instances, and in several others like them, this man in charge of charter schools in the Baton Rouge area at the time tried to help.
Parents were calling me and saying that they had difficulty understanding the Turkish folks who were running the school, and there seemed to be some treatment differently of minority parents, minority students, minority teachers, and females.
females could be in the room with the all-male Turkish administration, and they'd be spoken in front of and probably about in Turkish in front of your face, laughter, and then they'd come back to you with an answer.
One of the issues is the large number of teachers who are brought in on visas, H-1B visas, from Turkey. Now, according to the law, these teachers are brought in because there's no one available locally to teach these courses. That hasn't been true for many, many years. The fact is they're not being brought in to teach Turkish. They're being brought in to teach a variety of courses for which they're not certified at all.
About 2 or 3 times a day, there seemed to be an influx of Turkish members of the community coming in that never witnessed them sign in.
I got complaints from parents who called me and teachers who called me to say that the school was allowing prayer during the regular school day.
Actually, under all laws, under federal guidelines, you could have ecumenical services. You could have religious services at a school, but not during the time when students were there at the school, and it would have to be offered to all groups equally. You could not have it set up for one group alone. I did receive word on at least 3 different occasions that there appeared to be a room in the back of Kenilworth being used as a prayer room. They saw people coming in that entrance, adults that were not part of the school, but faculty members were told they were not welcome back there. They were pretty sure that it was being used as a prayer room.
I went, shared that with the principal. He said, oh, no, that's not true. And if you want to know if that's not true, I'll take you on a tour. You can look at all the rooms in the school if you want to. And we went into one room that looked like it was used for a teacher workroom, perhaps, and came up on what we described as a prayer cloth. Of course, they denied that it was a prayer cloth, and then changed the whole story to intimate that I bogarted in and took over and went through searching the school without their authorization or permission, which, of course, was not true.
Principal Dokman was supportive of what teachers wanted to do in their classrooms, as long as the test scores were going to come back well. But the minute that you began to question him, the door shut on you. You became an enemy, you became a problem, you became someone to target.
As the principal of the school, he seemed to be insensitive to many of the kinds of needs of youngsters that parents complained about. If he was one of my principals, he would have gotten unsatisfactory.
We received a memo saying that before exams, teachers needed to turn in their grade books and the grading system would be shut down. Mr. Dokman said that, in question, he said, we will determine the final grade so that we'll be generous with the students. It's strange, because here's this huge legal record that our job's dependent on, and people just turned it in without the final exams. And a lot of people were suspicious, but no one was willing to say, hey, wait a minute.
I thought maybe they had gotten the message that he was not the kind of guy that they needed to run their schools, but then when he resurfaced as the principal of Abramson in New Orleans, I knew that that wasn't the case.
Reports came out in the New Orleans Times-Picayune about some of the things that had happened at Abramson. Suddenly, an investigation was ordered.
So I'm looking at one volume of the Louisiana Investigative Report into Abramson Science and Technology Charter School. This investigation was launched after a teacher at the school wrote a letter about some of the things she had observed going on at the school. Examples of the practices include, but are not limited to, forging of parents' signatures, educational competitions wherein students received awards for projects that were plagiarized, as well as receiving credits for classes that do not exist. After she sent this letter, the state launched an investigation. They would have unannounced audits. They interviewed teachers. and they collected volumes of reports of things that were going on at this school. This was a Louisiana Department of Education investigation, the only investigation that's been conducted that is this in-depth, that gives us a peek into what is going on at these Gulen charter schools. General overview, the Turkish teachers were let off the hook most of the time. Very few resources were given to her for her English class, but the Turkish folk dance team received new uniforms. Science fair projects were completed by teachers. Science materials that had never been opened, had never been used. These schools claim to be top-notch science schools. This is important because it reveals many of the things that other people have complained about that are going on at this school. Part of the story about Abramson includes a attempted bribery of one of these state officials. This was a man named Fulwell Dunbar, who was working for the Department of Education. And he was approached by a woman from a Texas construction company. He says on Friday morning, he got another call from Inci Akpinar, the young Turkish woman who's the vice president of Atlas, Texas. My experience with her at Abramson and her persistent request to meet made me very suspicious. She insisted on having coffee with him. She was very, very persistent, and so he finally agreed to meet with her. He writes, as before, she gave me a number of compliments and told me how much she and the school needed me. Then she said, and I quote, I have $25,000 to fix this problem, $20,000 for you and $5,000 for me. He responded saying, I work for the Louisiana Department of Education. We are not allowed to take money. She then said that I could help the school after work and that I would only need to advise them. She asked me to consider her like a sister. You are the only one who can help us. Once again, he refuses. So he went on to recommend to the Board of Education, the State Board of Education, that this charter was revoked. This is an excellent example of the lengths to which the Gulenists will go to protect their charter schools. I suspect there's quite a bit of this type of thing that's going on across the country.
Within 14 days, the school was investigated, the school was closed, the recommendation was made by the superintendent to close the school, Bessie voted on it, and the school was taken over by the state. The level of improprieties that took place in New Orleans, and of course the fact that it went public, I think, was beyond the ability of the supporters of charter schools to simply overlook this time.
After Fulwell wrote this report, he was fired. Inci Akpinar was never charged for attempting to bribe a public official. She returned to Texas and is still working for Atlas Construction Company in Texas.
My background, I'm an architect, and I've been working with Atlas Texas Construction for 8 years.
Oh, you're an architect?
Yeah, I'm a VP of that company as well.
You know, I stumbled upon this weird article, and it said that, like, there was this Inci Akpinar who got accused of bribing some guy in Louisiana.
No,
was that you?
No, that was not me.
No.
There was something else.
Okay.
Isn't it unbelievable that Fulwell, who wrote this report based on evidence from a wide variety of people, he ends up losing his job and nothing happens to Akpinar.
Within days of the scandal of Abramson breaking, come to find that Principal Dokman had suddenly taken a position at North American College in Houston, which appears to also be associated with this network of Turkish schools.
Would it surprise you if I told him he'd been promoted
and he's in Houston working at the North American College.
I'm not necessarily surprised. That's kind of their track record of moving people around. If they don't work one place, they take and put them somewhere else.
Leaders for Kenilworth Charter School were tight-lipped Wednesday night about why federal agents raided the school where about $5 million in local, state, and federal money is spent to educate kids from Baton Rouge. Into the night, they were seen coming and going, taking boxes of items and talking to people inside the school.
I came over here to spend some time outside watching what was going on. They were clearly doing a full-fledged examination of documents and records here at the school. I've never known a school to be raided by the Federal Bureau of Investigation. This is a first.
What do you think is the meaning of propaganda? Propaganda is the art, or rather the act, of educating one in another's beliefs. Well, I'd like to add that propaganda is not necessarily truth and facts. It could be what you want them to think.
One of the things I hear over and over again is a waiting list for admission. Where is this waiting list, and can we see it?
The answer, well, each individual charter school maintains its own waiting list. The state does not maintain a waiting list. TCSA does not maintain a waiting list. But we do a survey of our membership to get from the membership what the numbers that are on their waiting list.
We needed to address the ever-increasing number of families on the wait list, now up to 100,000 waiting for charters, for opportunities.
Have you seen the waiting list?
I've not seen the waiting list.
Do they have a waiting list? Who knows? How do you verify it? Anybody can say that, but it's part of their marketing. You have to understand it as a marketing strategy to claim that there's so many on the waiting list so that they can demand more charters.
Absolutely, it's not a marketing ploy or a political ploy. We think it clearly demonstrates the need for more charter schools. The Harmony system of math science academies, they have over 40,000 students on their waiting list, and twice as many parents want to get their student into a Harmony public school as have successfully done so.
This is a world where school is not a civic responsibility or a civic institution. It's something that parents shop for.
Harmony Science Academy is known as one of the great charter public schools across the state. So why wait? Enroll now. Give your child an education for a lifetime.
The interest was, it was a science academy, and it was based toward, science, engineering, mathematics. I just wanted the best education for my child possible. It was exactly the opposite of what they were advertising for their charter school.
They advertised that we're this math and science academy, but yet our science lab doesn't have resources. We also advertise that we're very high technology, things like that, but our computers are falling apart. We don't have anything new or high-tech for the kids to use.
The more that the school can be marketed, the more parents they will have enroll their children in the school, and the more money will come that school's way.
Advertising from Kenilworth, we're saying, look at the incredible success. After the first year, but before scores were out, they were already showing brochures that showed the success of students at Kenilworth, but they were actually using numbers from Abrams in New Orleans, which is unethical, crazy.
It was like an open house, and they said, go talk good about the school. 100% college acceptance rate. It's all about science. You're going to get a great education. So that's what I had to say to every parent.
How can they make the claim that 100% of the kids can go to college?
What is it, the North American
College, which is a Harmony owned.
Opened.
If you go to high school at Harmony, you're accepted into North American College.
They force the kids to apply to college, and then the North American College accepts them all. So they create their own 100% acceptance rate. They will accept a failing student into their college in order to keep that statistic like that.
they had a robotics program, and you would see signs all over town, billboards. And we found out later that there were only maybe 5 kids that were working in the robotics operation at all, and most of it was being done by a teacher, but they were putting it off like it was a whole structured educational program.
They've even gone so far as to create some of their own competitions. One of these is a large one held in Texas. It's called Ice Sweep. A large number of students who are competing at this science fair come from these Gulen charter schools and Gulen private schools outside of this country.
We are from Kazakhstan.
We are from Indonesia.
We're from Thailand.
I am from Mexico.
Harmony Science Academy, Houston High.
They're using these science fairs to generate a reputation for themselves, to market themselves.
The science fairs give the schools legitimacy. What could make you happier than seeing a bunch of children win a science fair? But the student hadn't set up the scientific process. The student hadn't been guided to make these conclusions on their own. The student had been given a project and then would stand in front of it to make it look good.
For my science fair project, they gave me everything. They told me what to do. They told me how to set my poster board up, what to say.
What to put on the poster board and how to arrange it.
And they actually, the judges, they had some politicians as the judges. They just told me to impress the parents, impress the people who were judging. I got a trophy, so I guess I did good.
What is Hizmet?
Hizmet is the followers of Fethullah Gulen.
How did you become a follower of Fethullah Gulen?
I had friends from the movement. Day by day, I started to spend more time with them. We were going there having, breakfast or dinner, and their friends. He was gonna come to the United States, work for one of the charter school in Ohio. He offered me to come to the United States, so I accepted. And one day, the director of the school I was gonna work and called me and told me what to say at the U.S. consulate in Istanbul. And one day I went there and I got the visa. When I came to the United States, I started working at Horizon Science Academy, then it's a middle school located at Cleveland, Ohio. I didn't have any teaching experience. I just get a substitute license, but I was supposed to teach, I think, 27 hours per week as a teacher. It's like a full-time position. They are acting secretly in the United States. They are refusing their connections to the organization, but 99.99% of Turkish teachers at the schools are the followers of Fethullah Gulen. All the charter schools managed by Turkish people are the part of the Hizmet movement. I didn't know that until I saw the TÜZÜK, their bylaws, the rules, how much money you can get. Any person in the movement, in Hizmet, has to follow these bylaws.
And what does A, B, C, D, and E stand for?
A, B, C, D, and E is the regions of the United States. As of October 2005, they divided the country into 5 regions. There is one regional manager. In each state, there is another manager, state manager. In each city, there is city manager. In each school has a director. He is responsible from the teachers, Turkish teacher, who work for the school. So it's divided, from top to the bottom.
Who's at the top?
Who's at the top? As I know, Fethullah Gulen. Fethullah Gulen lives in Saylorsburg, Pennsylvania. you cannot see him easily.
Can you shut down, please? Can you shut down the camera?
Sorry?
Can you shut down the camera, please?
Why is that? We were wondering if Mr. Gulen is speaking today.
Mr. Gulen?
Uh-huh.
You can talk to... I will talk to my supervisor, okay?
Very active today. Lots of cars.
What are you guys doing?
They have something to hide from the people. All kinds of scam, immigration scam here going on. My base salary was supposed to be for the $4,000 because there's a prevailing wage for H-1B workers. So first year I was supposed to get for the $4,000, but our business manager was calculating how much money I got, from the school, and how much money I was supposed to get according to Tuzuk. So if there's a difference, I was supposed to give that money back to his mate.
Was that in cash?
Yeah, cash.
Were you the only Turkish teacher that was paying the percentage of their salary to the administrator?
No, everybody. All the Turkish teachers. All the Turkish teachers were paying the percentage of their salary to his mate. Yeah, it's a scam.
We are the only country in the world where the Gulen movement has been able to open its schools and have them fully funded by the host country's taxpayers. Gulen charter schools are getting what is estimated to be approaching $500 million a year to support their charter schools.
None of the Turkish people come over here to open charter school to teach the U.S. citizen science and math.
What are they here for?
I mean, what I can say that it's a good business.
Almost everything in our school is shipped over from Turkey. This is a picture of some lockers that came into our school this year. We had hundreds of these come to our school. You can see very large, it says made in Turkey on the box. This is a tag of a child's uniform. It says made in Turkey. Every chair in our school that is not a student desk chair is like this. They're all from Turkey. Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of them.
They were trying to open a new catering company so we can get the catering service for each school in the Ohio.
It takes about an hour and a half for the food to get to our school from Houston.
And why are they bringing it from Houston?
It's the catering service that they picked out. It's not a very good catering service.
They had to go and order pizza because we ran out of food. Our basic needs aren't being met because they are choosing to show preference to these specific Turkish companies.
I got a contact through the internet, and they had asked me if I wanted to do some work for the Harmony School. The general contractor for this project was a company called Solidarity Contracting, owned by Levant Ulasal out of Houston, Texas. Solidarity Contracting does not have a license to operate as a contractor. They hired a gentleman by the name of Steve Thompson, who does have a contractor's license to operate in Texas.
Levant Ulasal with Solidarity Contracting called me up. We had a meeting, hired me right on the spot as construction manager of the project. We were having a sub-meeting in there, and JR came in there to discuss payment with Levant Ulasal. And before he could come into the job site trailer, Levant went outside, started screaming at him and told him, "You're fired, get off my project."
They now owed me $432,000.
JR was one of the subcontractors who was treated terribly, but he wasn't the only one. We had Turkish subcontractors on that project who were treated totally different. Even though they did a poor workmanship job. They didn't even finish. They left, but they were paid.
A building this size requires time to be built right according to plans and specifications. In rushing through the job, they missed a lot.
The defects that are still there today, the concrete slab, there was bad soils underneath before they poured that slab, and they went ahead and poured the slab anyway. Another situation is the structural steel. There are some areas that were out of plumb, not put together correctly, and were hidden by belted soffits and then stuccoed over, made go away.
There is a danger to the kids in the school, and not only the kids, but anybody in the school. They were going against the AIA construction methodology.
They're all being built by Turkish contractors who have taken the money, closed their business. You can't even get a hold of them. And what's happening? The school is left undone, but they want it open. In order to open up a school, you got to have everything complete. Just like we do here in Texas with our public schools. You think they're going to open up a school if it's not done right? No, they're not. Where's our building officials? I'm going to say it plain and simple. Are they being bought off?
With the lack of oversight with charter schools, the financial management is really murky. We don't know where their money is being funneled exactly.
Do we need more state or oversight around fraudulent activity? I don't think so. TEA has found that in some instances and acted appropriately, but never with harmony.
Ridiculous change orders. If they literally don't do this stuff and they sign it, it's their game. I guarantee it, I'll find over half of these items not completed. Shades and canopy per required. Today, you don't see any shade or canopies. Dome changes. Don't see a dome. Throwing all these miscellaneous things at an owner. As an owner, I would take this sheet and tell them, forget it. You're not charging me another dime. We have not witnessed or seen any animosity between Harmony Schools and Solidarity Contracting. You're entitled to a change order, but $1.2 million worth? I find that hard to believe.
The United States, they usually use the charter school just to finance their other activities. So they can have other businesses, they can have contact with high-level people.
Well, the Gulen movement has been really smart in targeting politicians and people of influence, grooming them to be its sympathizers. They are using their schools, their interfaith dialogue centers, its Turkish cultural centers, and its businesses to establish a presence and a power. This is geopolitical.
Well, good afternoon, first of all, or good evening.
There are hundreds of these organizations, and then they have branches within states. They'll host these interfaith dialogue events. Among those are influential members of the community and politicians. These are typical patterns for all these organizations. I think the American public deserves to demand accountability from these public figures and their involvement. What arrangement has been made between these two parties?
The Muslim community is Ramadan. It will start the following week. Please enjoy the food at the same time.
This is a great idea. Yeah.
We do also big conferences.
Please help me welcome the Mayor of Boston, Diane Ravitch.
Thank you very much. Now I welcome everyone here to this Texas Turkish Business Lunch. And Texas is Turkey's largest trade partner, and our trade continues to grow every year. Last year,
in Houston, there's a place that has that's interfaith.
Yes. That's it. Interfaith in Houston, actually same group, but they responsible for Houston activities. So we are responsible for activities.
There are lots of NGOs run by Gulenists in the United States, all the same, and as a different platform.
They usually invite influential people to Turkey, governors, senators, congressmen, legislators, deans, academicians, journalists. They try to make connection with them because they might use that connection in the future for their own purposes.
I'm sure it's a very pleasant trip, but it's a propaganda trip. You don't get a multi-$1,000 trip to Turkey for no reason. They'll take politicians. When they return, a lot of times these influential people will do favors for them.
Have you been invited on a free trip to Turkey from this group?
Pelican invited me each of the 3 years I was in this position to go on that trip. We had to contribute something to the airfare, but other than that, everything was free.
When I talked to a reporter from the Austin Statement, he had mentioned to me that he had taken a free Turkey trip along with some Texas legislators to learn about Turkey. When I had asked him to listen to my issues and my story about the construction flaws in Austin, Texas, a week later he called me back and he said, "We're not interested."
Thousands of people have been on these propaganda trips to Turkey.
Our concern is that men, most of whom were educated and previously employed in Turkey, are here on H-1B visas, are not American citizens, and are operating 38 Harmony charter campuses. The New York Times links Fethullah Gulen to the Turkish charter school.
I have several of the Harmony schools in my district. I think they are fabulous because they are from Turkey, wonderful Turkey. I've been there twice. It's beautiful. You should go. You want to go? I'll take you.
Dr. Allen, I want to remind you that last regular session you passed Senate Resolution 85 honoring Fethullah Gulen for, among other things, quote, inspiring the Gulen movement, unquote. It didn't mention that Gulen was kicked out of Turkey for trying to return Turkey to an Islamist state and given asylum in America in 1999. Gulen is worth more than $50 billion. He controls almost all of Turkish newspapers and television stations and controls the 200,000-member Turkish police force.
İnsanlar Gezi Parkı olaylarıyla birlikte o yıllara varan öfkeyi bir anlamda sokağa. Evet, mesele ağaç değildi sadece. Artık o kadar ciğerimize kadar gelmişlerdi. Biz Fethullah Gülen hareketinin aslında ne anlama geldiğini, Fethullah Gülen hareketinin Türkiye'de nasıl örgütlendiğini yazmaya başladık. Bu egemen güçleri yani AKP ve cemaati rahatsız etti. Bu yüzden Oda TV.com'a bir polis operasyonu düzenlendi. Biz gazetecileri terör örgütü üyesi biz gözaltına alındık ve tutuklandık. Tam 19 ay tutuklu kaldık. Bizim tutuklanmamıza gerekçe olarak bizlerin bilgisayarlarında bulduklarını iddia ettikleri belgeler gösterildi. Bizim bilgisayarlarımıza virüsle konulduğunu, hacklenerek konulduğunu ve bu belgeleri virüsle koyanların biz Fethullah Gülen cemaatine ait insanlar olduğunu kanıtladık. Suçlamaya delil olarak bizim yaptığımız haberleri, yazdığımız makaleleri, yaptığımız röportajları gösterdiler. Bizim davada gazetecilik yargılandı.
What would you tell American journalists who come to Turkey, maybe while you're in jail? They come on a free trip paid for by one of the Gulen non-profit organizations.
Fethullah Gülen cemaati tarafından Türkiye'ye gönderilen Amerikalı gazeteciler, onlardan isterim ki Türkiye'ye gelip bir de bizimle konuşsunlar. O hareket nasıl bir hareketti? Hiç o kadar masum değiller. Onları kandırmak istiyorlar. Buna kanmasınlar.
The Gulen movement does not like critics and will do what it can to suppress them and intimidate them.
I resigned from the school. I talked to FBI, Department of Labor. I talked to other agencies, IRS, INS. I went back to Turkey. They sent one teacher, he was a science teacher at Horizon, the same school I work. They sent him back to Turkey to talk to me. They wanted me to sign a written statement saying that I manufactured all the documents. One of them is Tüzük. I told them I'm not gonna do that, I'm not gonna lie for you. So after that, there are cops from narcotics in my house. They searched the house, they couldn't find anything, and they put me in jail. And 2 days later, I learned that they charged me with international drug trafficking. Police went to a garbage can like 500 feet away from my house, found 82 grams of heroin, and found a fake ID. The picture was on the fake ID was mine. But the thing is, I'm not a fugitive. I don't have any criminal history, so I don't need a fake ID.
You've never been arrested?
Yeah, I haven't been arrested. You know, they can deny they don't have any followers in police force, but they do. And what can I say? I cannot go back to Turkey. They will try to put me in jail again. They ruined my life, but I know there are many other, they ruined their life too. They are dangerous people. They are capable of doing all kinds of things.
O zaman ben üniversite 2. sınıfta öğrenciydim o dönemde. Ve Türkiye'nin en büyük üniversitelerinden biri olan Orta Doğu Teknik Üniversitesi'nde büyük bir protesto gösterisi düzenlenmişti. Yani bu işe soyunduysanız sonuçlarına neler çıkabileceğini de bilmeniz gerekir Türkiye'de. Polis tarafından, özel polis tarafından daha doğrusu öyle söyleyeyim. Ben ve 3 arkadaşım daha polis tarafından gözaltına alındık bu eylemde. Ve açıkçası bu gözaltına alınma gayri resmi bir şekilde yapıldı. Yani hiçbir tutanak tutulmadan şakır şakır böyle sular akan bir beton bir odaya götürdüler bizi. 2 kolumdan barfiks demirini astılar. Soydular beni çırılçıplak. Islattılar böyle hortumlarla falan. Daha sonra benim cinsel organıma aynı şeyleri oraya takarak elektrik verdiler tekrardan. Tabii o bayağı acı verdi. Tabii ben bu işkence olayından sonra bu bana işkence yapan polislerin peşine düştüm. Bu Ergenekon operasyonlarını yani barışları ya da diğer Türkiye'deki vatansever insanları tutuklayan o evlerine gidip operasyonu yapan kişilerden biri olduğunu gördüm televizyonda izlerken. Bunlar özel olarak yetiştirilen bir nevi Amerika'da Special Forces ya da SWAT denilen adamlar. Ve bu Türkiye'deki bu Special Forces polisler yani Special özel polisler tamamen zaten Gülen yapılanmasının eseri olarak ortaya çıkan bir polis şekli.
Hocam niye vuruyorsun? Alttan tekme niye atıyorsun? Ne temas? Halkın polisi olun anlamıyor musun? Halkın polisi olun! Biz Türk'üz! Biz düşman değiliz! Yeter! Her gün böcekler gibi ilaçlanıyoruz!
Fethullah Gülen Türkiye'deki gücü Türkiye'nin %5'inin desteklemesinden kaynaklanmıyor. önemli güç merkezlerini, emniyet gibi, yargı gibi, sermaye gibi, bürokrasi gibi önemli güç merkezlerini, medya gibi elinde tutmasından kaynaklanıyor.
They have people at each government agency, especially in the police force. They can do everything they want. Nobody can stop them in Turkey.
Fethullah Gülen nedeniyle Türkiye daha az demokratik.
Bunları çok yavaş yavaş yaptı. Ve o bunları yaparken biz bunların hiçbirini fark etmedik. Ve şimdi geldiğimiz noktada Türkiye'deki durum ortada.
Isn't it amazing that a group that is this powerful in Turkey is also running the largest network of charter schools and Americans don't know about it? What happened with Gezi Park is that it activated these secular Turkish Americans.
İşini bize veremeyeceğini, özür dilediğini söylediler. Keza Fethullah Gülen'in gizli bir ajandası olduğunu, Amerika, Türkiye gibi aynı Amerika'da da aynı şeyleri yapmaya çalıştığını, bir demokrasi düşmanı ve halk düşmanı olduğunu anlatmaya geldik buraya.
Bu haftaki protestoyu ben organize ettim. Biz bu Fethullah Gülen cemaati, burada movement denen tehlikeyi Türkiye'de yaklaşık 34 yıldır yaşıyoruz. Şu an Türkiye'dekileri olduğu gibi Amerika'dakileri de kandırıyorlar.
They enroll over 60,000 children. They're now in 26 states. This is the largest charter school network in this country.
I wanted to go to Pennsylvania to join with the secularist Turkish.
The thing that we all have in common is our deep, deep concern about this man and what his followers are doing.
We're not going to stop until he's arrested and all his little cult members are arrested.
I don't think that the people in Saylorsburg, Pennsylvania are aware that their little town is home to the head of this global movement. I think the protest in Pennsylvania was a good start on pushing back on the Gulen movement's rising power in this country. The day following the protest, this Expose the Gulen Movement conference was held. I was one of the speakers. Mary Addy was one of the speakers. There was a retired admiral from the Turkish Navy, also 2 journalists.
You know, I never imagined I would end up here with you guys. I've learned a lot, and I'm really grateful to be here, and thank you so much.
Turkish Americans are understanding that with so many charter schools and the massive amount of money that they're getting, that there's a high probability that some of that money is finding its way back to Turkey to support the Gulen movement in its activities there. It's worked out for the Gulen movement in this country because I think people are paralyzed about talking openly about a group like this. There's a real reluctance where this can't be covered, and people won't touch it for fear of being Islamophobic or xenophobic.
They are using Islamophobic as a a tool for them to defend themselves, but they cannot say the same thing for me. I'm a Muslim, I'm a Turkish, and they can only try to discredit me, and they already did that.
Müslümanız. Fethullah Gülen hareketi bizim bildiğimiz, tarihten öğrendiğimiz Müslümanlara benzemeyen. Aslında tüm bunlar, yani Amerika'da bile göstermek istediği bu şey bir imajdan ibaret. Sadece bir imaj. Ama biz gazeteciler biliyoruz ki bu aslında yapmak istediği şeyi örtmek için uyguladığı bir yöntem.
When you look at their face, you can feel the same way. They are always smiling, they are always nice people. After you work with them, after you know what they are capable of, they are dangerous people.
So you're not in education anymore?
I am working for education. Pearson, maybe.
Where?
Pearson.
No.
It's a big publishing company.
Oh, Pearson. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
We do testing for different states.
Gotcha.
We have testing program we run in Texas, the STAR testing program.
Mm-hmm. They write the tests, they generate the tests, and then they administer.
They score the test, all of the activities regarding the test.
Okay.
Taxpayers should not pay for Gulen's private charter schools, because I don't believe those schools has any good for the American society.
I've seen the 60-minute report on Harmony schools, which raise questions. I've read national articles on the Harmony schools, which raises questions, and I get emails or questions from folks from time to time, but I have yet to have a parent. Not, again, maybe someone will say I called the office, they didn't get their call back, but I mean, if I just haven't had any kind of groundswell, or even half dozen. Again, I can't think of one.
Parents don't have a clue about this. They do not understand the history of this group, how it works. It's big and it's powerful, and it needs to be stopped.
What would you tell the parents of Texas school children who might send their kids to these schools? What would you tell them?
Well, I will tell them really this movement is not what they say. This movement is a sneaky movement and is not telling the truth. They have a goal, they have an agenda. The agenda is this: bring the Ottoman Empire, global Islamic state, okay? And Sharia law. All throughout his teaching or his preaching, Gulen is in love with Ottoman Empire. He wants to bring the Ottoman Empire back. First, they will not bring the Gulen. Little by little, they will talk about Gulen. Of course, this is not going to happen 10 years. Maybe it's not going to happen 15 years. But I tell you, you will see influence of Gulen and schools in the United States within 10 or 15 years. So when they teach Turkish, what do they teach in Turkish? Language is the way you can actually impose your culture, your values, your belief.
From elementary to high school, they provide just Turkish, not Spanish, but Turkish classes.
We also have a Turkish dance team that goes and performs and competes. They won't let us have cheerleading anymore, but we can have this Turkish dance team.
They'll pull the students out of class and practice in the cafeteria. They have people singing in the middle of the day, just random Turkish songs. It's not a good environment for anybody, especially the little kids, because they're gonna have them from elementary to high school if the parents don't take them out.
This year I'm going to be able to go to Turkey and represent the United States, and I hope that's a good Türkiye inşallah gitmeyi ve Türkiye kültürü çok seviyorum. Teşekkür ederim.
Going to Turkey, it's the greatest experience for me.
These aren't school trips. These are trips for small groups to go off in an extensive way, in a concentrated way with these Turkish teachers. This should be ringing loud alarms.
Those few very bright students are probably going to have that adolescent memory of that wonderful trip to Turkey that they took and how good the people were to them. There's a friend that was built from age 14.
After they make friends with these kids and get to know them, they can speak Turkish and have an affection for Turkey. They can, be tapped for their loyalty later on.
Amerika'nın fark etmediği tek şey şu. Bu yapılanma öyle sinsidir ki gün gelir sizin boynunuza dolanır bir yılan misali ve siz bunu fark etmezsiniz. Siz bunu fark ettiğinizde zaten iş işten geçmiş olur.
Thank you for what you've done for others in your lifetime. Thank you.
Makes me wonder if that corruption gene that left Louisiana found its way over to the State House in Austin.
In a state with 5 million students, more than 20 small states combined, and 8,500 campuses and 500 charters and 150,000 public charters and 100,000 on the wait list, I can't tell you about every situation.
For the world to depend on America. America must be strong, and we're weak in Washington today. America looks to Texas. Where are they going to look, California? We have a responsibility to give educational and economic freedom so that Texas stays strong until the rest of America wakes up and becomes more like us.
Tonight's the night, and we're heading over to a viewing party. All of the work we've done to inform voters is going to work in our favor.
Regardless of how the numbers turn out tonight, we need to all go out and continue to fight to save our public schools, right?
Yeah, that's what it's about. Fighting for our schools.
So right now we have a lead of 243 votes, which is a bit scary for me. 243 votes out of 8,000 people who have voted so far in this race. So we are on pins and needles, waiting to see how this election is going to turn out. There's a great momentum. Gina is ahead in her race. Anna's ahead in her race. So you have to count to 5 on that board. We're up to 4 now. We're down to this decisive race between me and our opponent. And so there's a lot hanging on these results and these few votes that are deciding this election.
He's at 51%, and Sam's at 49%, and 20 precincts are left. This is where it is, you know.
Oh, down to the wire. Our lead has narrowed to 151 votes, and we're counting on 2 ballot boxes.
Oh my God.
Dr. Jaime Mathias was officially sworn in earlier today as trustee of Single Women District 2. Let's give him a big hand for that.
AISD students and families and members of our community, I look forward to serving you.
Tonight's a big victory for Pride of the East Side. Just seeing it, seeing the swearing in, seeing them on the dais, it sunk. We have a lot of new members who are pro-community, pro-public schools, pro-democracy, and pro-listening. So Pride of the East Side is working to get IDEA Allen's contract on the school board agenda for its December 17th regular school board meeting, because that is when they can decide to null it. I definitely think the community can come together now.
That in-district partnership with Austin ISD and the IDEA network, the political process worked to the extent that the community was able to organize and elect new school board members that eventually wound up revoking the contract between AISD and IDEA.
I think what happened in Austin is very inspiring because the community got organized, came out to vote, and changed the school board. If people know about it, it can inspire others who feel so depressed about the future of their community because they see these charters being forced upon them with a lot of propaganda, a lot of money behind them, and they want to save their public school systems and they don't know how. So I think Vincent provides a template.
There have been a series of victories for candidates who are not associated with this reform movement, and that is a bright light for our future.
We are outspent, but we are many and they are few, and we will win. In 1998, I testified on behalf of charter schools in New York. I became very discouraged because one of the conservative think tanks where I was on the board authorized charters in Ohio, and all of them failed. Over time, I began looking and saying to myself, these things don't work. The testing's not working. It's not making schools better. The kids are not getting a better education. They're getting a worse education. They're losing the arts. They're losing physical education. They're losing history. I began to realize that the things I believed in were wrong. When people say, why did you change your mind? This is a simple answer. 3 words. I was wrong.
In the largest study, the Credo study, the famous Credo study, paid for by supporters of charter schools, 17% of charter schools did better for similar students than the regular public schools. 17%. 34% did worse.
I wouldn't say that all charter schools need to be closed, but I think there needs to be a massive slowdown on their expansion.
Once you've given a charter, they also need to follow up. It's not enough to say, we're only going to look at the scores. How are they spending the public dollars? Every one of us as citizens, as taxpayers, have a right to know how are our dollars being spent, how effective are our systems. Charter schools don't have any accountability to the public.
We all have an interest in developing strong citizens. It's a public responsibility that we're all in this together.
The United States of America is one of the greatest countries in the world, and 80% of the people in America have been educated in public schools. We're as good as any, and that doesn't certainly say that we can't improve, because we can.